Hey, how's it hanging YouTube? I'm back from the video, and today I'm going to be going back into the 2016 draft class and redrafting the lottery picks. Now, obviously, hindsight's 2020. I think that's how the saying goes. I don't know why. Don't judge me, but yeah, I'm gonna be redrafting 2016 class, and I'm gonna be going in the same order, obviously, of what the lottery was, but I will be making some changes because, as you probably know, if you do look at the list that is there of players that were drafted, there was quite a few busts drafted in the lottery that year. So yeah, I'm going to be going through the entire lottery, saying who I think should be drafted where and everything like that. So yeah, I'm gonna be getting to all that in this video. And also, before I do get into it, I do want to say that this video was inspired by Sporting Logically, so I'm not trying to steal his content. I'm openly saying I got this video idea from him, but I do have some changes. I don't think our order is the same either. So yeah, and I just wanted to get out of the way before anyone tried to comment that, if they did think that. So yeah, but if you like the video at any point, hit the like button and subscribe button. It mean the world to me. And without further ado, without rambling on too much, just get right into this video. Okay, so the first thing I'm beginning to for this video is going to be, let's get into what the actual original lottery was. The original lottery was Ben Simmons obviously went number 1, Brandon Ingram 2, Jaylen Brown 3. But then where the first big difference that needs to be changed, the Phoenix Suns drafted Dragon Bender. And then, of course, just a few picks later, with the 13th overall pick, the Suns went on to draft Georgios Papagonis, both of which are not in the league anymore. So as you can see, that with just those 2 picks in this lottery, and there are other ones, there are some pretty big busts that we need to go back through and fix. And as you can see from the list as well, there's other few players that are like, who are they? Yeah. And I mean, I'm going to list off some notable players before I actually get into the redraft. And those notable players, obviously the biggest ones, Ben Simmons, Brandon Ingram, Jaylen Brown, those are all the really big ones. But you also had players like Hield, Jamal Murray, Tomas Sabonis, Malik Beasley, Caris LeVert, Pascal Siakam, Malcolm Brogdon, Fred VanVleet, and those are the biggest names. But they also have a few other names that are going to be in the back of the lottery that are just solid role players. But yeah, so let's get into what the actual redraft itself and what everybody is actually here for. So with the number 1 overall pick, we have the Philadelphia 76ers selecting Dragon Bender. I'm kidding. They're going to be staying with Ben Simmons. And the reason I have them staying with Ben Simmons is because, I mean, he is the best player in this draft class, in my opinion. Even without him being able to shoot a three-pointer, he's at least shown that he is working on getting a three-pointer. And also, he's just an extremely talented player. What a freak athlete, and his freak size to be as good of a point guard as he is. Great passer, great defender, great basketball IQ. He can score in the paint with ease. He's a mismatch for almost every other point guard in the league. He's just a beast. And to top it all on that, they needed a point guard. Their starting point guard before him was Ish Smith. So, I mean, it's safe to say that they did need a point guard, and I think they're going to definitely stay with Ben Simmons. I see no reason why they would ever even want to get rid of Ben Simmons in this situation. Like, why would they want to swap anyone out? So, I'm going to be having them stay with Ben Simmons. And now with the 2nd overall pick, we have the Los Angeles Lakers also staying the same with Brandon Ingram. Now, this pick was more kind of, like, I don't know how to really say it. Like, this one was a little bit more contested. It was between him and Pascal Siakam. Now, although I think Pascal Siakam is the better player than Brandon Ingram, I think Brandon Ingram has a little bit more potential for his all-around game. Brandon Ingram could be an elite defender if he works on enough. He could be one of the best scorers, and he already looks like he's on the way for that, with this year being his best year by far. I mean, he could be that dude that you go to in clutch time, like, is that dominant clutch scorer that every team needs. He could be that second all-star superstar to win a championship with. So, I mean, he's shown tons of potential, and I just don't know if Pascal Siakam has that offensive potential that Brandon Ingram has. And for that reason, I still have the Lakers picking them. Plus, that year Kobe Bryant retired, so they were looking for a new starting small forward anyway. And Brandon Ingram was definitely going to be that hole filler. And I mean, he did show some potential when he was with the Lakers, so I have them sticking with Brandon Ingram. And now the Boston Celtics, this is where the first change comes in the draft. We go from the 28th overall pick all the way to the 3rd pick with Pascal Siakam. Pascal Siakam is by far probably the 2nd best player in this NBA draft so far. And like I said, he was drafted way later in the original draft, but he is going number 3 here. I mean, they needed a forward, and I mean, they didn't need a scorer, really. They had Isaiah Thomas. Avery Bradley was a decent scorer at the time. Al Horford could score. So it's not like they really needed anybody that was dominant as the scoring position. They had scorers. What they needed was a forward that could play defense. And Pascal Siakam has length. He can play defense in the paint. And he can also score. And he has shown that he can be that dude on a championship team. I mean, yes, Kawhi Leonard was the biggest reason, but Pascal Siakam was a pretty big reason as well to how they ended up winning that championship. Without Siakam, I highly doubt they have enough star talent to win that championship against the Warriors, even with all those injuries. So I think Siakam has shown tons of superstar potential, and I would not be surprised at all if one day we see him as one of those upper echelon players in the entire league, and the Celtics would be getting an absolute steal with this pick, and it would be very interesting to see how he would have worked out with that Celtics team that they had during the 2016 season. And now the Phoenix Suns, instead of drafting one of the biggest busts in the NBA draft in Dragon Bender, they would be getting a future star and cornerstone of the team in Jaylen Brown. Jaylen Brown, I mean, obviously we know how good he is. He had kind of a down year his third year in the league, but since he signed that contract, he has been absolutely balling out in the league and has been one of the better players in the entire league. I mean, they needed another scorer to go alongside with Booker. That year they needed a lot. Devin Booker was literally their only star player. I went back to look at that roster. They needed everything but a shooting guard, because that's what Devin Booker was. And this is before Devin Booker was like the all-star level player. He was still developing. So they desperately just needed more talent on that team. And Jaylen Brown would have definitely given you that talent. Jaylen Brown's a scorer. Devin Booker and him would have played together, and he would have made a very strong offense. And I mean, obviously would have helped a lot more than what Dragon Bender gave them. And now the 5th pick, the Minnesota Timberwolves, are going to be going with Domantas Sabonis. Now, Domantas Sabonis would be a great fit for this team, because now you're putting a defensive-minded all-star level player alongside with Karl-Anthony Towns. Now, although Karl-Anthony Towns is one of the best offensive centers we've ever seen in the league, he's not the best defender, let's be honest. He's gotten better over the years, and he's starting to develop that defense, and he's becoming like too hated on as a defender, but he's still not a great defender, you know what I'm trying to say? But I mean, still not the best defender. So getting someone like Domantas Sabonis who can block shots and score like he can, that would be giving a very good 1-2 punch at the power forward and center positions that not a lot of teams could deal with, alongside while adding some defensive presence down low as well. And it would have been very, very good pairing those two players together, and it would have been very interesting to see how the team would have worked out, because at the time they still had Zach LaVine, and now you'd have a big three of a young Zach LaVine, a young Domantas Sabonis, and a very young Karl-Anthony Towns, and it would have been very, very interesting to see how they could have actually developed that team together, and if they could have been as good as people thought they were. And now the New Orleans Pelicans, with the 6th overall pick, they originally went with a guard and Buddy Hield, and just a pick later, Jamal Murray went. Well, now it's going to be flipped a little bit, as Jamal Murray is going to be who the Pelicans pick, and the only reason I have them picking this is because they lost Eric Gordon in free agency the year of this draft, so they needed a shooting guard, and now with getting Jamal Murray there, Jamal Murray could run point guard and move Jrue Holiday back to his natural position as shooting guard, where he's always played better, and now you could have a very good scorer in the point guard position and a very good defender and scorer, one of the best two-way guards in the league in Jrue Holiday in his natural position, to go along with Anthony Davis. And I don't know, I think they had Dante Cunningham. They still had a few holes on that roster, but still they would have been looking a lot better than they did without adding Jamal Murray. They added Buddy Hield, which made Jrue Holiday stay at the point guard, which brought down his play because he's not used to running point guard, and Buddy Hield was a rookie, so he wasn't giving the best minutes or anything. So yeah, and now I don't know if the DeMarcus Cousins trade would have still happened that year, but I think personally, if they got Jamal Murray, him and Jrue at the guard position would have been very hard to deal with, and then you had Anthony Davis, and that team would have been pretty scary offensively. And now the Denver Nuggets with the 7th overall pick. Now that Jamal Murray's gone, they have to go with the next best guard available, which is Malcolm Brogdon. Malcolm Brogdon was originally a 2nd round pick and has definitely became a top 2 guard in this draft class. He's currently the starting point guard for the Indiana Pacers and has been playing very, very well this season. I loved him when he was at the Bucks, and I love him now that he's at the Pacers, and I think he's one of the more slept on guards in the entire league, and the Nuggets would not be losing that much productivity going from Jamal Murray to Malcolm Brogdon at all. And now the Sacramento Kings would be getting Buddy Hield just a little bit earlier than they already got him, as I mean, he would be dropping all the way to the 8th overall pick, and the only reason I'm saying that is because they badly needed guard talent during this time. They had DeMarcus Cousins, and they had a good small forward in Rudy Gay at the time. And for some reason in the original draft, they drafted a center, and Marquise Chris. I don't know why. What the Kings were doing, I don't know. Yeah, they drafted a center when their best player was a center. It made no sense. And they had Rajon Rondo was their aging point guard who didn't want to be there. It didn't make any sense. And instead of drafting a guard, they drafted a center. But now in the redraft, they could rewrite that mistake, get Buddy Hield, develop him even longer with DeMarcus Cousins, and this way they could get Buddy Hield without giving up their superstar level player in DeMarcus Cousins. And now the 9th overall pick, we have the Toronto Raptors selecting Malik Beasley. Now this was a pretty close one. It was between Fred VanVleet and Malik Beasley. And for 2 reasons, I made them pick Beasley. One, because I felt like it would have been lame if Fred VanVleet went to the Raptors, even if he got drafted. And number 2, because Malik Beasley has been playing out of his mind before the season got suspended. He was playing his best basketball of his career and was showing the potential that he had when he was drafted originally in the first round in the original draft. And also, they badly needed a small forward at the time, the Raptors did. So, I mean, they could have done many things when they drafted Malik Beasley. You could have moved Beasley to small forward. You could have moved DeMar DeRozan to small forward. You could have done a lot of things at the time, and now you would have had a 1, 2, 3, like all of them solid players at every position instead of just, having like I forgot who the Raptors originally drafted, but yeah, and they needed a small forward, and I feel like Malik Beasley would have been a very serviceable small forward for that Raptors team. And now my 10th overall pick is going to be the man himself, Fred VanVleet. Now, Fred VanVleet, I mean, in this draft went undrafted in the original one, which is crazy because he's one of the best point guards in the entire draft. Well, I would argue probably the 2nd best point guard behind Jamal Murray. And I can't really argue with that. I mean, everybody has their opinion, and he's a very good guard. And he was one of the big parts of that Raptors team that won an NBA championship. So, I mean, it's pretty hard to argue that he's not an elite level guard off the bench or even maybe a starting level guard. So, I mean, in the season before this, when they had Giannis running point guard before this draft. And I mean, not saying that's a bad thing because Giannis can do whatever he wants and be a beast at anything. But this was a young Giannis at the time who was still putting up good numbers. But I mean, it would have been better to have a point guard that can shoot, score, and pass the ball at an elite level instead of someone that's just running down the paint every time with the ball. So Fred VanVleet would have provided much needed scoring from the point guard position, a legit starting point guard, like an actual point guard, and you'd be able to move Giannis back to his natural position, which would help him play even better. So really just getting Fred VanVleet would have helped his team a ton overall, and I think it would have been very, very good for this Bucks team to get him. And now the Orlando Magic would be getting Deonte Murray. Now Deonte Murray, unfortunately, has been dealing with injury problems as late, but he is still a very good defensive-minded point guard who can do a lot of things very well. He can run your offense. He's not going to be a superstar. He's not too flashy, not the best offensive player, but he's definitely a starting level point guard. And I mean, he can lock up any other team's point guard. And this team definitely needed point guard depth at the time, and Deonte Murray would either have been a great backup for Elfrid Payton or even took Elfrid Payton's starting spot that year. And now the Utah Jazz with the 12th overall pick are really just picking the best player available at this point, and they would be picking up Caris LeVert. Caris LeVert, their biggest need was point guard at the time. You could either move Caris LeVert to point guard, or they could have tried to run Rodney Hood at point guard. I don't know how either one of them would have done at point guard, but still they would have been a pretty interesting backcourt to watch, and I think they could have definitely lived together. They're both very good scorers, and I really think that it could have worked, and really the only reason I've been drafting him here is because he's the best player available at this point, and that's what you're doing when you're this late in the lottery. And now the Phoenix Suns in the original draft somehow managed to pick a bigger bust than they did before and got Georgios Papagonis. I don't even know, man. Instead of that, now I have them selecting Terence Prince. Now, Terence Prince isn't a star. He's maybe not even be a starting level player, but at least he's a solid player off your bench who can do a lot of things well. And I think he would have been a very, very much more valuable player to the Suns than what their original pick was. And they needed a power forward. He could have been that power forward. Probably would have started for him that year. They were pretty bad. So yeah, I think he would have been a much, much better selection than their original pick. And now for the final pick of this draft lottery, we have the Chicago Bulls picking Ivica Zubac. I always get his name wrong, but Zubac. And the only reason I'm picking here is because, well, they kind of needed a center this year. He's the best player left by far. And yeah, I just think Zubac is the best player left by far, and the Bulls would be selecting him. So yeah, but unfortunately, guys, that's me for this video. So comment below, do you agree with me? Do you think that this would be the draft lottery? Do you think this is how it would go? I want to hear your thoughts in the comment section below. Who do you think would go first? I want to hear your thoughts in the comment section below. If you like the video, and point the like button and subscribe button, it would mean the world to me. See you in the next video. Goodbye. Boo. Blah.